we're going to now talk about how technology can ease the regulatory burden for lots of players in the industry. And to do that, we have a panel of esteemed guests. Joining us now is Lee Fulmer. He is the MD and Chief Technology Officer of Cash Management at JP Morgan. Also with us is Mark Lawrence, Managing Director of the Mark Lawrence Group. And David Saul is the Senior Vice President and Chief Scientist at State Street. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining us. So I understand that you were all in a debate this morning, in a panel, I should say, or looking at and listening to some of the panels that we were hearing about how technology can actually ease this regulatory burden. What for you, let's start with you first of all, what for you have been or will be the key challenges?
I think the key challenge for me certainly is for us to stop thinking about it as a burden, because it isn't. It's the way we need to manage our business. And I think the other thing is to stop assuming that technology can solve all of our problems. That there's an equal split between how we deploy technology and how we use it, as well as how we change our business processes and our operating models, because it's about operating more efficiently at the end of the day and making the bank more efficient at what it does.
What have been the regulations for you, Mark, that will have the greatest technological impact?
Well, one of the most crucial regulatory developments is the requirement that banks do a better job of being able to integrate their systems to be able to understand their aggregate exposures, credit exposures to their biggest counterparties. When Lehman Brothers went under, the biggest banks didn't know how much exposure they had, and that was really a technology problem. So this has to be fixed, not good enough.
So is this really about, presumably, technology that was mostly seen in the back office and the middle office now, that the challenge now is to create dashboards so the front office can actually be able to look at a snapshot and drill down to see what's actually really happening and be more transparent across the whole of the global operation?
Yes, it is partly that. It's also the fact that through mergers and acquisitions, big banks had different systems historically that didn't talk to each other. So a particular counterparty bank in one system might have a certain name and a different name in another system, and when you want to add it all up, we don't know how to add. So you can produce the dashboard. The crucial thing is being able to rely on the numbers that are in the dashboard.
I see. So David, you've been sitting down there listening to what everybody's had to say. How will the relationship, I would argue, between the IT professionals, the business leaders in a bank, how will that actually evolve over the next 12 months or so? Because I got to tell you, when you speak to lots of business leaders about technology, eyes just glaze over, don't they? So how is that relationship going to evolve over the next 12 months?
Creating the bridge between technology and the business has been around ever since I've been doing it. So I think it's going to take us a bit more than 12 months to address that. And the challenge that we have is not that we don't have the data. It's we have lots of it. It's coming at us more quickly than ever before and more complex. And so, as has been pointed out already, it's really a question of integrating that data, correlating it, and having the IT people provide a platform that's understandable and usable by the business so that they can address not only regulation, but also business problems that they're trying to solve, deliver data in a form that's more useful to all of our clients.
What about best practice? So this is obviously a huge area when you're talking about how technology how you can leverage technology to deal with regulation and the wave of regulation that we've been seeing. Best practice from your point of view with what people are doing in the community now.
So I think I can sum it up in one word, which is context, right? So we all have multiple systems that do different parts of the banking process. As you merge and acquire other banks or other financial institutions, the numbers of systems grow. And the biggest challenge that we've had, I think, to date is trying to pull all that data together in one place and taking away the context of what it meant. So I think that the big lever for us, for the regulators, is to try to understand the context of the life cycle. So how it goes from somebody wanting to make a payment, how it processes through the engines and out through the various international gateways and services that we use, and understanding how that all pins together, because that's where we'll be able to finally surface out to the regulators a complete picture of what we're doing.
Best practice.
Yeah, I think 2 points. First of all, a lot of the requirements that are coming are really directly coming from failures that happened in the financial crisis. And risk management failed, regulation failed, lots of change. So a lot of what's being required now is new, especially the requirements on data aggregation and technology itself. It's new. So I think it's almost too early to see best practice yet. This will really be the agenda for the next 3 to 5 years. That said, I think there's best practice in the governance of these issues, which is having the business people and the technology people together overseeing the agenda, the complete agenda, not just split into lots of little pieces, because all of this will have impact on the business and the business models and the customers.
I believe there are 3 things. I'll start with technology because that's my job as a technologist. And I believe that the semantic database technology, which is now being used in pilot form, holds out the promise for doing those correlations, the integrations of data in a non-traditional way. So it's built on the same technology that the World Wide Web uses for linking. It provides linkages between data. But it's not just a technology problem. We also need to have a robust data governance structure that deals with ownership, data quality that goes along with it. And the third is standards. This is not going to work unless we have established standards across the industry. And I just point out one example, the FIBO, the Financial Industry Business Ontology, which has been worked on for a couple of years, is very close to coming out, will enable us to exchange data across organizations as well as to the regulators and satisfy their requirements.
Well, which brings me nicely on to my final question, which is what is the role, or what do you guys see as the, if you had a, imagine Santa Claus comes early, what do you see as the role that Swift could provide in helping you navigate some of these challenges that lie ahead?
I actually think one of the roles that Swift could play is the same way it's established standards for us as banks and financial institutions to interoperate with each other, is to do a similar role in terms of financial institutions interoperating with all the different regulators. We heard some of the other speakers on Sibos TV talking about how if you go into multiple markets with a mobile platform, you've got multiple regulators who you have to go through approval on. And we have a lot of regulators asking for very similar information, but not in a consistent way, right? So we might be able to surface that information using technology, but there's no guarantee the regulator can consume it. And I think if we looked for a disinterested third party to provide that conduit between all the various banks and regulators to get a standard format for how the data is transferred and transmitted, it would actually make it easier for the regulators as well, because they'd get a similar view of all institutions rather than the one that you produce for them.
Sure.
Yeah, I think the great challenge we're facing is to break out of our specialist silos. Regulators, commercial guys, technologists, risk managers are all expert at what they do, but have trouble bridging. And I think Swift, can be a conduit.
We're hearing a lot these days the term big data, which refers to quantity and velocity and complexity of data. I believe we need to move from that to adding intelligence to that data, and an industry-wide initiative which is being termed smart data, which will provide us the ability to cross that bridge, back to your original question, between IT and the business and deliver better solutions.
Okay, well, thanks very much to all you gentlemen for joining us. It's nice to have you with us on Sibos TV.